Okay, well, good afternoon, everybody. The presentation here is about how to use mobile not just for e-commerce purposes, which as a retailer, as an e-commerce retailer, we obviously want to do, but more importantly, how to use mobile in a way that allows you to better understand consumer behavior. Because obviously one benefit is being able to get transactions over mobile, but it goes way beyond that. And mobile itself can be an incredibly powerful way to better understand consumer behavior. So this is a bit of a case study about our experience at Redmart. So very quickly, Redmart is an online grocery service based in Singapore. We've been around about 4 years. We serve tens of thousands of orders a month, so we have a pretty decent customer base now. We launched mobile a couple of years ago and are now at about 50% of our transactions being conducted on mobile, although about 60% of orders go through mobile, and I'll get into that in a minute. So just want to start off with a bit of a real-life case example. It's a mystery that we faced right when we first launched mobile about 2 years ago. So this is our desktop website, and the conversion rate of our desktop website right before we launched mobile, I'm just indexing to 100. It obviously wasn't 100, but that's what I'm just using as an example. So we had this conversion rate of 100 using our desktop site, and then we launched mobile, and we got a conversion rate of 70 relative to the 100 on the mobile device. And so we started panicking a little bit because we said, well, did we do something wrong? I mean, we tried to actually replicate the design as fully as possible, but maybe grocery shopping is too difficult to do over mobile, or maybe we messed up somehow, or maybe it was attracting a different type of customer. And we didn't really know what the issue was, but there clearly seemed to be an issue because we were getting 30% less conversion rate on mobile, which doesn't really make sense from a business perspective. But then we took a look at the desktop, and the desktop actually went up. And that became really puzzling. It's like, well, we launched the desktop, the mobile is lower than the desktop, but the desktop goes up. And so it took us a while, and it took us quite a bit of analysis, really, to figure out what was going on. And basically, this was what was going on, where a customer would add to their cart using the mobile web, they'd add to their cart again using the mobile web, they add to their cart again using the mobile web, and then the mobile app, and then finally they would check out on desktop. And so what was happening is that the mobile sessions were showing up as having a conversion rate of 0%, and then the desktop session was showing up with a conversion rate of 100%. So it was getting all the credit for that transaction, even though the consumer was using both devices. And that's what was really interesting to us, because I think a lot of companies, and a lot of e-commerce companies as well, feel that there's two different types of customers. There's a mobile customer, and you build your mobile application for that. And then there's a web customer, and you design your website for that customer. And I guess it's sort of obvious in retrospect and thinking about it now, but clearly that's not the truth. There's just a customer, and the customer will use what they want, how they want. And I think for grocery shopping, it's particularly exacerbated because grocery shopping you do over the course of a week, and you add a lot of items to cart, and in subsequent surveys that we did, we found out that actually a lot of these mobile adds to cart were when they were commuting, sitting on the MRT in Singapore, and they sort of remembered, oh yeah, I forgot to order diapers, I'll just quickly get on Redmart, throw it into my cart and check out later. So again, this is a good example of how mobile doesn't only lead to transactions, but it leads to changes in consumer behavior, and it also leads to understandings of how consumers shop. So again, our first big lesson learned is that sessions are not people, and I think that in the e-commerce industry in particular, we're so session focused. A visit happens and something happens during that visit, and you're always trying to optimize how efficient or effective that single visit is. But that's really a short-sighted view, because the same customer could be hitting you from 3 different devices across the course of the day. And so unless you're really taking that holistic view of the customer, you're not seeing the customer. You can't take a session-oriented view of your customers. It's going to be giving you false information. You really have to take a customer view. And obviously that's a lot of work, because now we're talking about unifying data from mobile and desktop and mobile web and integrating it together and doing analysis at the true customer level. So it's a lot of work, but it's necessary work in order to truly understand your customers and get away from this session viewpoint. And again, the second big lesson we learned is that mobile does change behavior. It's the same customer, but their behavior is very different based on whether they're on the desktop or on the mobile. And I think that that's something that a lot of us overlook, is how is that behavior different. And therefore, I think a lot of e-commerce companies and other companies, they're trying to take this mobile-first approach towards development, which basically says, develop for mobile first because that's the smallest screen, and if you can make it work on the mobile screen, then it'll work in responsive design to a larger screen, whether it's a tablet or desktop. So it's really a design and development idea that's a development idea driven by design. Given that designers want to make it easy, and designers want to design for the smallest screen first and then enlarge. But if you think about it, that doesn't make sense that you take this mobile first and then just adapt it for larger screens, because again, it's not a matter of screen size, it's a matter of device and how they're interacting with that device and where they're interacting with that device. And so you really have to design for the device. And when we first developed our app, we had basically the same exact checkout flow as the desktop. And then after about 6 months of really looking at consumer behavior and us doing some testing ourselves, we realized the checkout shouldn't be the same. It should be a different type of checkout, a different checkout flow, a different checkout process, because again, the consumer is in a different mindset when they're using the mobile device. So again, as I mentioned, unifying the data is definitely the key to understanding behavior. So this is how we now try to look at data across customers. So we look at every device they use, both for the first visit, their second order that they place, the third order that they place, trying to understand how they're intermixing these devices over time. Because again, it'll change. The recipe of how they use your service will change over time as well. And so again, it's a lot of work to get this done, but I think it's again, necessary work if you really want to understand your customers. So here's some of the learnings that we had, and they may or may not be applicable to you. They may or may not agree with what you've found out. If you've launched mobile devices and have transactional devices across mobile and desktop. But we found out that it's, again, a lot easier to get customers to convert from desktop to mobile than the other way around. And for our desktop, by their 5th order, 35% of the customers who started on desktop had tried mobile. Whereas if they start the other way around, if they start with mobile, it was only 10% that migrated over to the desktop. And then the 10th order, by the 10th order, again, about 50% of desktop customers we were able to convert to at least try mobile once. The other way around, it was about half that. So this is something that we're still trying to figure out exactly why it is this way. Again, I think that mobile customers tend to be a little bit unique in that they're if they start out with mobile, they're very comfortable with that device, and they tend to keep their transactions on that device. But obviously, what we've decided to do is really just we've sort of given up on trying to get mobile users to use desktop. And we focus more of our attention to get desktop users to use mobile because there's greater utility that way. There's greater utility to get them off a fixed device and onto a mobile device than the other way around. Learning number 2, consumers definitely act faster on mobile. I guess even the word itself, mobile, implies that you're doing something and you're acting fast. So if we look at pages or screens per session, if you look at time per session, and if you look at order value across the platforms, and again, I'm indexing it so that the desktop is 100 here. Our iOS app has only 80% of the screens or pages that a typical user will see in a session, and the Android even less. The time spent per session is dramatically less. So, the iOS is at 60% of the desktop, and the Android at 70%. And as a result of that, the order value is quite a bit less as well, 90 and 80%. And this has been very consistent over time. Now it's the same exact catalog that they can access by desktop and mobile, but there's something about the mindset of a consumer on the mobile where they just want to get to the point. We have 25,000 products that we sell. They're not interested in exploring those 25,000 products. They just want to get their transaction done. And that shows in the fact that, again, a lot less pages that they see, a lot less time spent, and therefore lower order value. So I think that's something to consider as you launch a mobile device. Again, same customer, same person, but very different behavior. You have to think of the mobile is for somebody who is going to tend to be wanting to be in a rush, getting things done fast. They want to get right to the point. And so we're also now changing the design of our mobile app to better reflect that, particularly for returning users. Returning users aren't interested in a lot of banners about our special deals or new products. They just want to get their transaction done. And so I think the longer we go on, the more the desktop experience and the mobile experience will deviate from each other, and they'll actually be probably fairly dramatically different experiences over time, especially for repeat customers. Learning number 3 is consumers are much more likely to consider on-sale products, to consider on-sale versus new products on mobile. So on mobile, 45% of our orders have an on-sale item. So we have a special on-sale category. That's the first category you see when you come to Redmart. We have 5,000 items on sale right now of the 25,000. Customers love sale items, and on the mobile, it's 45% of orders have an on-sale item, and only 5% have a new item. Now, we typically have items that we label new are usually about the same number as those that are on sale. Somewhere around 5,000 at any given time are labeled as new and in the new category because we just brought them on in the last 3 months. So 45 and 5, whereas desktop, it's 30 and 15. So that's another very interesting insight that, these mobile customers, again, there's something about the mobile device that changes their behavior. They're not really interested in the new items. We've tried to push new items on the mobile, and it's had very little uptake, but they're very interested in sales. So again, I think it gets to the mentality of, I want to get on, I want to get off quickly. So they'll come onto the device, they'll quickly check to see if any of their favorites are on sale. If not, fine, leave. But they're not interested in new items whatsoever. So again, this does speak to why you can't just design the desktop to be the mobile or the mobile to be the desktop, because it's literally different categories of items that they're shopping for based on what device we're on. So again, we're really trying to change the app now to primarily focus on on-sale items, and we're reducing we had on sale and new both as the first and second listing on both, and obviously that doesn't make sense. For the mobile, the on sale should stay at the top, but the new should probably drop to the bottom of the 12 categories that we show because the customer isn't interested in it. And learning 4, and I think there's a theme here about the type of consumer, but consumers are much less willing to use search on mobile. So we try to feature search prominently because it helps the customer get directly to what they want to find, obviously. But on mobile, only about 4% of screens are search-related, meaning a search result took them to that screen. Whereas desktop, it's 16%. Now, they both have a search field, or it's both there, and you can access them just as easily from the home pages of both the mobile and the web. And yet again, very, very, very different consumer behavior. It ties in with the other things that we're seeing with, again, the mobile customer is not really interested in exploring new items. They just want to get on the app, they want to get off, and they're not really interested in searching around. They're going to either just look at their list or their cart, or they're just going to look through a couple of categories and that's it. So yet another reason to design the two differently. And related to that, much more willing to use the shopping list. So every customer, we build up their list over time. Every time they order, everything that they ordered goes onto their list. They can add stuff to it, they can take it off, but the shopping list is sort of the central location where every existing customer starts. On mobile, 65% of the sessions included them looking at their list and very often adding to products from the list. With desktop, it's only 30%, so half the use of the list based on which device it's on. So yet again, reinforcing that mobile customers just want to get on, shop, and get off. And yet again, reinforcing that we have to design these two platforms differently. So in conclusion, I think there's one clear takeaway, at least for us, that it's the same customer, obviously, across mobile and desktop, but the mobile customer is just much, much more focused. And they know what they want, and they want to get on and off as quickly as possible. And so you really have to think about your mobile application as being designed to accommodate that mindset and allow your desktop to be more of your showroom where they can, when they do have the time, that they can browse around and find what they want, but make your mobile device the most brutally efficient shopping device you possibly can, because that's what the customer wants. So just some summary and advice for what it's worth. Again, mobile does change how your customers will interact with your service. And so be on the lookout for things like, wow, how come my mobile conversion rate is so low, and does that really mean it's a problem, or did consumer behavior just change because we now offer a mobile device? Again, unifying data is really critical. It's a very hard task, but it is critical if you really want to have a single view of the customer. And design each platform separately. Your designers won't necessarily be happy with that. And your programmers won't necessarily as well, but it's really important because, again, the desktop is a lot more about exploring and searching and learning, whereas the mobile is really about get the order done efficiently and quickly. And so, you have to make sure that everybody in the organization understands that and understands that, it is going to be extra work, but it's work that you really need to do in order to give the customer the right experience when they're on the device of their choice. And that's it for me.